first story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my parents it's their fault my sister and I don't have a relationship and they should reflect on their failings as parents? I, 24 female, was spoiled by my parents in early childhood. I got everything I wanted and had little to no boundaries. I was also the youngest of two. My sister is 4 years older than me and was treated pretty badly by our parents. Her toys were given to me if I even looked at them as a toddler. My favorite foods were chosen over hers, and I got to take her blankets and clothes and other stuff. This was until maybe I was 6, and honestly the only reason it probably stopped is because my taste changed a lot. But my parents never considered what that would do to our relationship. Spoiler alert, it made her resent me, hate me even. And today at 24 and 28 years old, we have not spoken in 10 years. I have not seen her in 6 years. The last piece of communication we had was when she told me she never wanted to hear or speak to me again. My parents have never understood, and honestly, it pisses me off. I am very detached from them because I know they ruined any chance I ever had at having a sister relationship with mine. They also could have turned me into a pretty horrible person, which I hate thinking about. I can't even blame my sister for how she feels because I would imagine it's hard even as an adult to figure all that out when you were always the scapegoat of the family. I last spoke to my parents a month and a half ago, and they were going on and on about my sisters and my relationship or lack thereof, and how they could not understand why we wouldn't even try to get along. And I couldn't believe it. So I told them they should look at their failings as parents, and the blame they have in all of this. They were shocked. I told them they messed things up, and they still don't get why. They said I was rude. My uncle, who I'm close to, said he understood saying what I did but could have handled it better. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. You say this stopped when you were 6, and assuming your sister left immediately at 18. You being at that point, there are at least 8 years of your relationship and interactions with her that are completely left out of this post that would have an effect on this. So what was your behavior toward your sister during that time? I tried to get closer with her. I wanted us to hang out and stuff, but she rejected me. I remember giving her back the old stuffed bear she used to treasure, because when I realized even that was hers, I felt awful, but she didn't want it back. By the time I truly realized what was going on, the damage was done, and eventually I just hoped that eventually things would get better. So while I didn't take her stuff, I didn't try to force myself on her either. You're getting a lot of flack here, and I'm sorry for that. You didn't choose how you and your sister were raised. You were not at fault for your parents' favoritism. It sounds like you recognized what was going on and tried to make amends. But I can understand why her treasured bear was a tainted memory, and by extension, why she can't bring herself to have a relationship with you. You seem to also respect her boundaries there. I feel for your sister, and I also feel for you. You lost your sister through your parents' actions, and now you have to hear them whine to you that you guys aren't closer? No wonder you flipped on them. They needed to hear it. I'm so impressed that by 14 you were able to recognize how messed up your family dynamic was, and as a young teen you were able to turn yourself around and become such a compassionate person. You were raised to treat your sister badly, and that was the only dynamic model to you. But you snapped out of it and recognized that she's not to blame for her coldness towards you. I honestly would send your sister a letter. Explain that you know and understand why she resents you, and that while you won't force her to do so, you would really like to have a relationship with her. Suggest a therapy session. The worst that could happen is she says no. Don't send multiple letters, just one. Info. There's a lot omitted here. If any favoritism stopped when you were 6, that's a long time for her to continue to resent you. What happened when you were older? What was your relationship like when you were teens? It sounds like the taking stuff stopped, but not the favoritism. You can make sure to always cook one kid's favorite meal, put a little more effort into their birthday, etc. Rare to see the golden child admit to their status, and use their status to tell their parents that the favoritism has caused long-term damage. Since the scapegoat child will always be ignored when the favoritism is brought up. Not the a-hole from this scapegoat. You tried. Most golden children never realize, and if they do, never bother. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom I'm not going to be her second choice just because my brother died? Me, 23 male, and my mom don't have the best relationship. My parents broke up when I was 2. My mom was trying to do college. So I was mostly with my dad and she'd have me every weekend. When I was 6, she got married, and then a year later had my half-brother, Tommy. After that, she was canceling our meetups or days I go over there because she was busy, missing out on school stuff, and then birthdays. I barely saw her after that, and her reason always was being busy with my half-brother. I never even met him, like at all. I could also tell when I was around that her husband didn't like me. He was always serious around me and never actually spoke to me. Years went on and it just went to total no talking at all. My dad got married to my stepmom when I was 10, and she's really great. So 9 months ago, I heard from my grandparents on Facebook that Tommy passed. I don't know the full details. All I know is it was some accident and he had serious injuries. Thought about reaching out to my mom, but it felt weird since we haven't talked in years. She ended up the one messaging me. First telling me about what happened to Tommy and then apologizing for not keeping contact with me for years. Pretty much she wants to meet and for us to have a relationship again. It just felt off to me that she's doing it only now after Tommy passed. I know some of you are gonna say losing him maybe made her realize she was a terrible mom to me, but still, if this hadn't happened, then it's like she never would have reached out and wouldn't be trying. I told her this too, and that I'm not interested in us having anything at the moment. This made her push even more that we need to do this, and it just seemed like she was not gonna let this go. So I said I'm sorry for what happened to him, but I'm not gonna be her second choice. And she can't expect me to want her back in just because she lost one child and decided she'll go back to the other. Maybe in the future if I feel differently, but not right now. My mom has left me alone, and when last time I talked to my grandparents, they gave me a crap about what I told her. And I shouldn't have said that to her after she's lost her son. So I'm not sure if what I said was too harsh, saying I'm not interested in her right now just because my brother's not around anymore, and it's like I'm just her only option now. It's just how I feel since she dropped out of my life once she had another family. Was I an a-hole? Not an a-hole in the slightest, in my opinion. This shouldn't be questioning your head, man. Don't feel bad about not wanting a relationship. She ditched you for her other son, and now only wants you now that he's gone? Bug off. This is harsh, but that's karma. Completely up to you. But she doesn't deserve you, pal. Exactly. Opie's not a plan B. This is such a bad thing to do to a child. The mother wants emotional support, not Opie. She wants something to love to help her over her grief and regrets. I hope she won't get anything of Opie. And what if the mom gets another child or dog or something, and will just kick Opie to the curb again? Just horrible. She did it once, she will do it again. Not an a-hole, and your grandparents are also the a-holes if they've watched the situation unfold over years, and only now decided to intervene. Even if she's genuinely regretting the past, that's her problem because that was entirely her actions that put her in this place now. You aren't an emotional support animal that she can pick up when she needs it. It's very reasonable you don't want to be subbed in for Tommy when you were already swapped for him once. She's going to need to demonstrate that she wants to get to know you as a person, not a substitute son. And she's got a lot of explaining to do. She made you a stranger. She doesn't get to call in strangers for help. Exactly this. Where were they the whole time your mother ignored you? You never even met your brother. How bad is that? What did they say about that? My son died. But wait, I got a spare, don't I? Not a hole. This. Block her on social media and tell your grandparents that your decision on this is final for the time being, and that if they can't respect your choice, then you'll restrict contact with them. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not wanting to discuss my deceased sister? Before I, 19 female, was born, my parents had another kid, Hannah. When Hannah was 8, she died due to an accident and I was born 2 years later. Growing up, she was constantly mentioned. We went to her grave multiple times a year, pictures were hung in our house, stories were told. I wouldn't say it overshone me in any way. I still got to be my own person. My parents never wanted me to be Hannah, and they celebrated my accomplishments. But still, she was always talked about, and I was always told I had a sister, asked how I felt about her, and it took me years to admit to myself that I feel nothing for her. I never met her, and due to her death, she's always been made into this saint-like figure. It's like she's this person I've watched documentaries about. I have respect for her, but I don't consider her my sister. If others ask if I have siblings, I say no. Now that I'm living on my own, I don't visit Hannah. I don't display the pictures of her that my parents gave to me over the years. I've told a few close friends and my ex as I felt they had a right to know, but outside that, there's nothing to discuss. Recently, my mom was talking about Hannah a lot. I've told her before I don't want to talk about Hannah anymore, but she doesn't listen. The other day, she kept going on about a story I've heard a million times, and I said, I thought I told you I was done talking about her. My mom replied, she's your sister. And I said, technically, maybe. My mom got really offended, and I pointed out we weren't raised together. I don't know her. I feel nothing for her. My mom started crying and called me heartless. She said that I don't have to discuss Hannah, but she's not going to stop just because I want to pretend she never existed. My dad has said what I said about Hannah is near unforgivable, and I need to reevaluate my priorities. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole. I understand your view here, and I don't really think you are an a-hole. But in this situation, it is you. You feel nothing for her, but your parents do. They raised her until she was in 2nd or 3rd grade, and then she died. Their baby died, dude. People say it is the worst possible thing to go through in your life. They need some way to get through it. So I totally understand how you might not feel anything for her yourself, but in my opinion, it isn't that hard to humor your parents a bit about their dead kid. I was going to say this, especially because it doesn't sound like Opie's parents tried to turn Opie into Hannah 2.0 or neglect Opie in any way as a result of their grief for Hannah. It seems like they just tried to keep the memory of their daughter alive. Yes, Opie's parents want to keep Hannah's memory alive, and they will always have 2 kids. But Opie has always effectively been an only child. I think Opie's parents need to understand Opie's sympathy about the situation is always going to be skewed because when you grew up with a hardship being the norm, your brain doesn't necessarily understand that it is a hardship and wasn't always the norm and the pain it causes people around you. I don't think that Opie is being purposely unsympathetic. I think Opie doesn't want to feel pushed to act like she had a relationship with someone she never knew, and that she feels pushed to act like she knew. I think this is no a-holes here, because this is above Reddit's pay grade, and everyone needs family therapy. No a-holes here. If you don't want to talk about her, that's fine. In my humble opinion, it was kind of rude of your mom to keep talking about it after you repeatedly told her that you do not want to talk about her. And it was probably frustrating just to have your parents stuck on and focused so far in the past. You deserve her full attention too, and it's frustrating for you to have to share it with someone you never met. And she is not going to stop talking about it, so you could just leave whenever she does it. No a-holes here. Both sides are perfectly within their rights. It's just a horrible situation all around. If it were me, I'd apologize for hurting their feelings, but mention that I had my boundary. They're of course free to speak about her, but you're under no obligation to engage. It's been a long time. My mother died young, and it traumatized me. But I went through grief counseling and found healthy ways to speak about her with my family. I don't talk about her much to people who have never met her, regardless of their relation to her or myself. You're the a-hole for expecting your parents to just stop with their deceased child. They raised and loved her for 8 years, then lost her. That's fine if you don't want to talk about her, but you never ever get over the loss of your child. Opie isn't expecting them to stop loving Hannah, or thinking about her, or missing her. They just don't want to be the audience for Hannah's story. This is allowed. Opie, you are allowed to not want to participate in a conversation. You're allowed to live your own life without having to feign interest in the same stories you heard over and over growing up, about a person you never met. Just keep firmly repeating the boundary with your mother, gently ending the call each time she starts in on her firstborn. She'll eventually adjust. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom that my father didn't do anything for her birthday? My mother and I can have a rocky relationship at times, but I love her more than anyone on this planet, and it was her birthday a few days back. I'm a school student, and I don't get pocket money. I don't have a job, and my parents buy me whatever I need, so I've never asked to be given any allowance. For my mom's birthday, I asked my father repeatedly to buy a cute gift. I gave him multiple options regarding what she would like. But the day before her birthday, he said he hasn't had any time, which is a big fat lie because I know he had a lot. The cake for her birthday? I spent 2 weeks asking him to book one so we would be prepared. Instead, he went and bought it 2 hours before her birthday. It was a very small celebration. Just the three of us, but my mom was happy. My dad told her he will buy her a gift soon and that he has had a busy week. Again, it's a lie. It's been 2 weeks since then, and my dad's sister was visiting. She didn't even bother wishing my mom on her birthday, and my dad asked my mom to select a gift for her sister as she's leaving. My mom asked if he had forgotten about her, if he didn't value her, and why should she buy gifts for a woman who talks trash behind her back when her own husband didn't buy her a birthday gift. A few hours later, my mom was crying, and I told her that he didn't buy anything despite me pestering him for weeks, and the cake came because I demanded it. My dad even yelled at me for bothering him about it. She was more sad, but told me that as I don't even earn money yet and I am young, I shouldn't be worried about it. My dad found out I told her and called me a liar, and later told me I made things worse and I've been a bad daughter. I feel guilty because I feel like I made things worse. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole, but Opie, your parents' marriage is not your responsibility. You didn't make things worse. You just didn't want to lie to your mother for your dad. Whatever happens between them is their choice, but you made your stance clear that you won't be part of this cover-up in the future. The reality is, if he cared, he would have done anything. And if your mother doesn't want to be taken for granted, she has to take steps to stop it. Whatever happens is not your fault. Oh look, straight up gaslighting. Not an a-hole, Opie, but your dad is manipulative as heck. Not an a-hole. Good on you for doing everything you could have for your mom. Your dad sucks and is trying to blame you for a problem he created. His sister sucks too. Not the a-hole. Your father is a total a-hole. Start saving up money for when you, and maybe your mother, leave. Ask for money for school and clothes, etc. regularly and save it. Try to get a job. You're gonna need money to get away from this situation. It's not dire. My mom works and has a good job, so if anything happens, it won't be bad. He's just so uncaring sometimes. This is a sign of a deeper problem, that he doesn't care enough to make an effort to be kind. If I were you, I'd give it to him straight that if it doesn't shape up his behavior, he might not have a marriage when he grows old. A person can only tolerate this kind of disrespect for so long. To ignore her birthday gift is a power play on his part. He's actively trying to see how terrible he can be to her in order to show her that she's worthless. Or maybe leave the issue alone. It may be for the best that she leaves. Your call. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe.